today's golden paths become tomorrow's golden handcuffs. All software rots, and that's just as true of infrastructure and everything else.
Welcome to the /podcast, where we lean into the future of IT by inviting fellow thought leaders, innovators, and problem solvers to slash through its complexity. I'm your host, James Carman, and today we're talking to Mike Spiegel. Mike is a staff software engineer on the platform team at SpotOn, where he specializes in software delivery and developer experience. He's currently spearheading efforts to modernize the company's development practices using Cloud Native Computing Foundation, CNCF, technologies. A program committee member for Backstage Con, looks like both North America and Europe. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Oh, man, that's cool. Since 2024, he's passionate about building tools that make developers more productive and fulfilled. Welcome to the /, Mike.
It is so good to be here. I've really been looking forward to this.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you on. How has the program committee thing been for Backstage Con? That sounds like that's probably takes up a bit of your time.
Yeah, it has been it's fun. Like the first time was very scary because it's just like an absolute avalanche of program submissions, and you have to read them and then check out the speakers and then like formulate an opinion. And then the whole skill set of how do I provide feedback to this person? How do I rate this? How do I rate this against the other submissions? Because for these conferences, they're very exciting to present at, and there's always more submissions than there are slots for speakers, and you want to give people a shot. It's really helped me like really cultivate and hone a sense of like professional empathy and help me to kind of, the phrase you learn 90% of what you teach. I think it's selfishly been a great learning opportunity for me. When you just roll through, how many have I read? I think I probably read almost 200 or 300 submissions at this point. Oof, now.
Man.
You kind of learn, you think just a little bit harder when it's time to like fire off that email, or definitely fire off your own program submission, or fire off a Slack message after having seen some that are like, wow, this person is great. I wish I could buy them a coffee and have them teach me the secrets. So you read this thing like, I don't feel like this person wrote this while they were like at the grocery store. It's, you get all kinds.
Section.
Yeah. And you simply just must be empathetic and thoughtful and kind. And it's been great. It's been I think if anyone gets the opportunity, I don't care if it's like the smallest conference in your hometown or the biggest one, like I think it's absolutely, you can do it, and it's worth it to learn how to do it and see what other people are putting out. I mean, I just learned a ton about the ecosystem just from seeing potential conference submissions. Like I'll sort of, and aside that, be like, oh, I got to check that out. Oh, that sounds cool. Oh, I never thought of that. It's very fun. It's very fun to be part of I think it's a great thing about open source for the humans is it's a very like uplifting thing to see like all the raw creative output. You kind of get to like dangle your feet more directly in the stream. Which gives you a lot of energy to go to work the next day, or at least it does for me. So it's been great. I hope they let me keep doing it as long as they'll let me do it.
This sounds like a George Costanza line, but I was the assistant to the traveling secretary of Apache Software Foundation, and I had the same experience with because I had to file all the code grant forms and all that stuff. Yeah. So I had to make sure those were all put in the right place and taken care of properly. But especially when I was doing it was when big data was big and all these projects were coming in, and I was like, oh, wow, that sounds cool. I was just reading about what they're donating, and I'd have to go and research it. So yeah, I had the same experience as you. And, again, open source, it's just all the innovation and all that. That's where it's at.
It's just the best. It's so, it's just to linger on the point. It's so energizing for me is just like, a guy doing the work of programming. Sometimes it's at work. Sometimes work's great and it's aligning exactly with your interests and your career goals. It's like, it's not even work. And, sometimes work is work. Sometimes you got to go in and slog through that migration or slog through those meetings. And it's really nice as, a person who has to sustain a career over 30 or more years. Like it's really nice to have just this other outlet where you can just kind of go and be a little selfish and be like, I don't necessarily know if I care about like business outcomes. I just want to see all the cool stuff and check out all the cool ways people are doing or we're using this product. And it makes the sort of scut work things of, like collating meeting notes or collating or just kind of, there's a volunteerism aspect to it that I think is just good for a person. It's certainly been good for me. It felt in the beginning like it was going to be, I don't have time for this. Oh, this is going to be like a net drain on my energy. I think it's probably like working out or any of those other things where it's like the initial push is definitely, chilling out and watching TV would probably be maybe more relaxing for that evening. But over a period of 1 month to 1 year, it's like, I kind of have to do this. This is like kind of essential now for my longer term satisfaction.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So you're going to Backstage Con. That's definitely a platform engineering type thing. Do you guys use Backstage at work?
We do. We have it's been really, it came on board the org at the right time. We gave a talk at it. It went through the whole like product life cycle. It was this like big exciting initiative, and it helped us solve a lot of organizational challenges. Just briefly, we had grown through acquisition, and no one kind of knew where anything was. And you get into those. If you don't know where anything is, it's really hard to improve things or respond during production incidents. Like, and I'm being maybe a little hand wavy. It's like, well, the code's in GitHub. It's like, yeah, but like, is it maintained, and who maintains it, and what's the escalation chain for the maintainers, and how often does it release? Conway's law for me, selfishly, is just this obsession I've had through my career of like the software an organization produces more or less mirrors its organizational structure. Like, I have found that to be the most ironclad rule in software development, like more than any OOP or functional programming stuff, more than anything technical. It's great to have as an engineer, like a technical outlet for like, I want to organize over this organization of 200 to 2,000 people, like who owns what and why in a scalable way where everyone can contribute. So once you have that in place, it becomes really trivial to be like, automatic on-call escalations, automatic deprecation of software repos, because you can notify the right people, and things that become this like email chain slog that could take, even if they don't take a long time, it's like very kind of exhausting to be like, I have to go stand in the middle of the ether that is Slack and shout into the void, hey, does anyone know anything about X? And just like hope I get a response. Or someone pops in and be like, oh, it becomes like your princess is in another castle. It's just nice to not have to do that work. It's nice to just go to a thing, look, oh no, by the way, there's an API, and oh, by the way, there's an MCP server. So it's all programmatically addressable. It's been really effective at our organization for helping with that kind of work and growing as we evolve. So as when I joined the company, we were just like, humming, rocking and rolling. We've gotten a lot bigger. So now we organize as domains. Well, because Backstage it's not turnkey. It's sort of the pro and the con of a CNCF tool, where it's like a more of a development framework for developer portals. So you get a lot out of the box if you just want to like push a Docker container to wherever and host it. But the core model is like very extensible. So it doesn't take a lot of work to be like, okay, in a vanilla Backstage instance, like domains kind of have one place in the information hierarchy, and we're going to bump them and change them around. It doesn't take that long. And this is pre Claude Opus like 2. The framework itself is quite well. I mean, it's just a very pleasant, selfishly, it's a very pleasant framework to develop with. It's very structured, excellent interfaces, excellent evolution. Like things are deprecated well in exams, both in release notes and with like metadata in the code. So of the tools that I've worked with recently, it's probably the framework I'd feel most comfortable just like turning a prompt loose on and being like, okay, like this is what I'm looking for. Like, go make it happen. Read about the docs from Context 7, read about the code base, like go make it work. It's
Cool.
just been great. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that you mentioned Conway's Law. The most fascinating thing about Conway's Law for me has been, how does Tim Conway from the Carol Burnett Show have the time to come up with stuff like this? I have no idea how he did that,
Some people are just barely human. Some people just like, they're just like polyglot geniuses. They can act, they can sing, they can dance, they can create organizational laws, they can create excellent graph theory stuff. I don't know. They're barely human.
Yeah. It's like that Blossom lady she was like an astrophysicist or something. Like, it's amazing. How do these people do it?
I barely understand the reference. I'm not trying to date anybody or call them out.
See, my thing is like 80s and 90s, like movies and like references. And I'm really digging deep. That may be a 70s reference right there. Tim Conway, this Carol Burnett Show, like that. If you haven't seen the skits though, man, he was funny. Gosh, he was funny.
I'm way deep into kids programming these days. That's kind of all I have. I have a 4-year-old and a 4-month-old. So we are just like, I think I've watched, there's a show called Number Blocks from BBC that I think I've watched 6 billion times. So I can tell you about number things. Carol Burnett is a little...
That's way back there. Yeah.
Way back there. Yeah.
Okay.
Someday.
Yeah. Well, and even the kids shows that my kids, like my kids are 15 and 18 now. And like, was it like Bluey and Dora and I don't even know if we had Bluey. I think that was kind of more of my nephews and stuff. I don't know. Yeah, it's different now, I'm sure.
Yeah. Those kindergarten skills are great. And sometimes you work with people who you feel like could use a refresher in Bluey or the lessons taught in Bluey.
We had
speaking slow and reading people's emotions and all that good stuff.
Do you watch any PBS stuff?
Well, I guess Sesame Street isn't PBS anymore, but yes,
that's true. Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, we had a guy on the podcast a long time ago. He was one of the like IT people for PBS. It was pretty interesting.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
It was really cool.
Wow,
Yeah,
what a
it was
gig. That
great.
sounds like a great gig.
I'll have to send you the link to the episode.
Yeah.
It was really cool. I think he actually had I don't know, Ryan can probably help me, but he had won some sort of award, like an Emmy or something like that, a
No
daytime
kidding.
Emmy. Yeah. So if you have like an Oscar or, a Tony or anything, or a Grammy, let us know, because we're trying to get the whole
Yeah,
EGOT thing here on the /.
totally.
Yeah.
Listen,
So if you have one, let us know.
I'll come to my manager and be like, listen, if we want to hype the company and stuff, like I've been given a mandate to go get a Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, or Tony.
I think I'm going to assign you the Tony. I feel like you would
Perfect.
that's on stage, isn't it? That's the stage one. Yeah. I feel like you could do
Yeah,
that.
I think that's acting.
Yeah. You could pull it off.
This conversation is making me realize how narrowly I've optimized on work, childcare, and nothing else.
Oh, I could talk a lot about nothing. Like I'm like a Seinfeld episode all in myself. Okay, so let's get back. We're doing the weave here, right? We talked
Yeah,
about let's
listen.
get the weave back in here.
I'm more embarrassed than this is entertaining for me. I'm just like, ooh, I need to like get out of the house a little bit.
Well, when you got kids, young kids, it's tough, man. All right, so we're talking about Backstage. Great platform. It sounds like you guys are really focusing on developer experience. Is that a core effort of you guys? Are you guys really focusing on that?
Yeah, I mean, like, there's two answers. I mean, and the two answers just to like are like yes and no. Like, it's. I think that it's like
Okay.
It's a classic
diametrically.
Yeah, like I think it's really important for your audience. I listen to a lot of podcasts like this, and the speakers always make things seem what's like fait accompli. It's like, oh yeah, like we just strung together these 10 things that we could just see from the beginning of the journey and it worked perfectly. It's like, oh, we have external pressure to sell products to customers who aren't technical. Like SpotOn is the restaurant operating system, right? If you have a restaurant or a small business, you want to focus on whatever that is, right? You don't want to focus on payroll management, all these other things. You want to hire people, train them to do the thing, and you want to chuck the information in a system that works really well for you, that's battle tested from like a user experience perspective and works really reliably. That's what people want their bank to work, right? They don't want to think about the internal workings of their bank. They want to earn money, spend money, and that's as much as they want to think about their banking software. So the business is focused on growing its reach, growing its impact, acquiring customers faster and acquiring more of them and keeping them happy once they're in the door, right?
Uh-huh.
So we as a technical staff are like, to be perpetually asked to go faster, and the audience is probably well familiar, is like you have to reduce friction at lots of points inside of your internal development processes. But you can't go to your CEO or your salespeople and be like, yeah, like you want to acquire 14% more customers. So we are spending, I don't know, 3 weeks or 10 weeks making a great CLI for these use cases. Like we don't, like, that's not what you should be focusing on, right? So you should be focusing on customers. To achieve what the business asks for, we are constantly trying to look for ways to opportunistically improve developer experience, which could just be like better docs. Better docs are kind of like the evergreen, quote unquote, cheap way of improving developer experience. But it's a constant push-pull. Like it's not like it's like month over month, quarter over quarter. You have to go to the people who are in the company with you and justify why you're spending time on it, right? So it's one thing I like about SpotOn is like we are able to focus on it because I think I'm assuming because no one's been fired and no one's been yelled at too bad. We keep getting told we kind of keep getting more runway. You know what I mean?
Well, that's been like the age-old struggle, and that's been that we've always been fighting that fight. But the theory is that yes, that CLI actually can serve a business purpose. Like if it does reduce that friction and helps us get to market faster, that it does serve a business purpose. When do we get to that point of enlightenment as organizations that we say, yes, these running the shop sort of things are important enough to focus and spend time and money and investment on? Like when do we get there? Because it's been forever. I mean, when the book Accelerate was written how many years ago?
Yeah, I have it somewhere here. I don't think it's ever going to happen. I think it's always going to be, you probably have more stories about this than I do. I think what I'm starting to see is you're always going to have like a core, like within an industry and even within a company, you're going to have a core group of believers who are sort of the converts or the zealots or whatever, who are like, this is the way it can work. And it's always going to be like razor's edge dance. It's always going to be like, you're always going to be in the middle of two groups who are never satisfied. The developers are never going to feel like the developer experience is good enough. Like I'm sure if any developers from SpotOn are listening to this, they're going to be like, we have people thinking about developer experience, rattle off 30 things that a real developer, a team that was really focused on developer experience should have already handled. And then the business people would be like, you guys are focusing on what? Like, you're telling me that I could have made 2% more sales or 2% more customer retention. And the only reason I didn't is because you focused on this weird thing. So I feel like it's always just going to be, it's going to be the core group of believers in a company or in an industry, and then leadership who either graduated from that core group of believers into like more roles, and just everyone just getting like, it's going to be like very tight circles of trust of like, I will keep extending you the trust as long as you keep delivering and whatever the currency of the realm is. So if the currency of the realm at your company is reliability, because some companies are different journeys. Some companies care more or less about reliability. They're like, some companies just product market fit, ship. Some companies are like, do not create regressions, like ever.
Mhm.
And, you know, I think companies go through different life cycles. But in terms of like writ large and as technologists, is it ever going to, I don't think I'm not pessimistic. I just think it will probably always roughly be the balance it's at now. And like the practitioners, I say true believer, because I sometimes like listen to myself talk. I'm like, you sound like 11 more engineering phrases back into it, because you kind of start to sound like someone who just like believes in a series of principles more than like an engineering from first principles. But yeah, I think finding enough people in an org that like are sort of bought into these ideas is one step. So form a team of them, or form like, you know, like maybe they're on 4 different teams, but they eat lunch regularly or play, I don't know, a virtual game of Pinochle, whatever. Like they socialize regularly, because it's about, back to Conway's, it's about those social connections.
Mm-hmm.
That's step 1. And then step 2 is like, they got to have enough skills to like produce something valuable in a fast enough time. And I don't think anyone's ever going to be like, oh, I feel like I took this job thinking like, okay, I'll prove myself at some point, and then you'll kind of be able to like take a step back and coast a little bit. And that's been a little true, but any of these like optimization things, people always like, there's always a loud enough voice being like, well, there's like, prove to me that it's actually valuable. Like, prove to me that this isn't actually waste, or like someone's like personal, like thumb twiddling project dressed up as like making things better. Have you ever been somewhere where that dynamic hasn't been in place? I mean, I'm sure it waxes and wanes, but
Yeah, I think there's a spectrum, right? I think that the problem, and because we have earned as an industry, I think we've earned that skepticism ourselves, because when we do those things like, oh, we want to do a code coverage sprint, right? We want to do a blitz on code coverage, and they're like, okay. And they give us that, and then we do that, and we focus on it. Okay, it goes up 2 to 3%, but there's nothing better. There's nothing tangibly better about the world from the product perspective. They don't see any difference there. Maybe we see some numbers here and there, and maybe we feel a little safer putting our head on our pillow at night that we're not getting called. But there's nothing tangible. I think so. We have earned that skepticism over time. Of we keep asking for these things that are very technical in nature, and we say, just trust us, just trust us. This is making things so much better. And they just don't, there's nothing tangible to them. Maybe we need to do a better job of like metrics and saying, okay, look how many less issues we have now, or what, those sort of things.
Yeah. Metrics are hard. I mean, you see this throughout like American life, right? Like you see, like it's like, it's hard to advocate to get that bad shoulder fixed for like 99% of the time until there's like a really brutal car crash, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, and I feel like maybe in software it's a little bit more exasperated, because it's all like the stuff of thought, and it's not like a bridge. It's a little harder to get your hands around, like make him low. But like, yeah, I mean, I always have to go through like some sort of like, and I'm up more now with a baby, so my thoughts get a little crazier depending on. I'm like, yeah, maybe I can engineer some sort of like false flag where like I bring a database down for like 2 minutes and cause an incident. If anyone from my company's working, I've never done that. This is just crazy person thoughts. I'm a responsible software developer.
What, a 5-month-old kid, then you're lacking sleep. These are the thoughts.
Because it's like, how do you get, and this is like, I find in my role too, I'm like, wow, I should have had a couple courses on like sales, because it's about really getting to the heart of like, what do your customers value? How is that translated through what your leaders value? And finally, like, what do your developers value? And like aligning all those things. I mean, I feel like it's tricky no matter the role you have. As an IC, as a staff engineer, I'm like, well, if I was CTO, I'm sure I could just tell people, and I'm sure that's absolutely not the case. Yeah, I feel like
correct.
It's not the military. You can't just tell people what to think and believe. But aligning, getting people to like, we're going to invest in X, because there's an upfront cost, right? It's like there's like some Popeye thing, right? Of like, give me 1 hamburger today, and I'll give you 2 tomorrow. It's like,
I'll gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today.
Yeah, it's like, well, you're trusting that you'll like, you as like the leader, giving them time and budget to work on X. There's the opportunity cost, like the leader's on the hook for the opportunity cost. So, and there's no guarantee that you have like an employment contract with your developers. but you don't have like a vendor. I think this is sometimes why vendors and consultants are appealing from a leadership perspective, because like you have like a very palpable stick. You can be like, give me the thing or I'm giving you the boot. I think can make leaders very comfortable. So to return, like just, yeah, as an industry, it's like, it is unique in software. I think where like, it's hard to justify investments. You know, somewhere out there, someone's like, the best companies invest, and you hear that. But I think there's like a lot more to it. So working in this area of like trying to make the things at our company that should be fast, easy to do, and the things that should be like impossible to do, hard to do, is for me, it really stretches me as an engineer. It stretches me as a, what's the word, technical leader, quote unquote, as like a human being trying to talk to other human beings to get something done. And there's like a lot to it. There's you learn, the more you learn, the more you realize you have a lot to learn. I should reread Accelerate. I should reread the Phoenix Project.
I should reread every year.
Yeah, no kidding.
And another thing, and I think we talked about this on the prep call, that I think where we've earned a little bit of the skepticism, I'm sure we get a bunch of eye rolls from the people that consume our work, you know, our customers. Our industry is just fraught with it's constant upheaval. You know, we've got microservices and blockchain and all these things. It's just constant, and it's like, oh, we have to be chasing the next new technology trend all the time. I'm sure they're like, oh gosh, here we go again, and I don't blame them, right? I mean, it's hard in the platform world. You know, we kind of saw that with like these swings from one way to another. I mean, we started off, you know, back in my day, you know, the developers develop software and they're done.
Rack
and then
that
they
server.
throw it over the wall. Yeah. And then they throw it over the wall and the testers test that software and then they're done. And then they throw it over the wall and the ops people, they run the servers or they run all the servers in the software. And then when people, you know, something goes bump the night, they take care of it. So there was that was the extreme, right? That was the way we did it for a long time. And then it was like, well, DevOps is here now. Everybody, you do everything, developers, right? Now I think we're kind of seeing a bit of a correction back the other direction. Kind of, I know we are. We're seeing a correction. Developers got to the point where like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to run servers. I don't want to do all this infrastructure stuff. That's not what I went to school for. I want to write bubble sort, right? Like that's what, you know, gives me joy. Yeah, exactly. So how do we kind of, is this another one of those trends that just, it's always going to be like that? These just rapid swings back and forth, you know, and just one extreme to the other?
Yeah. I mean, so I'm sort of in the camp of like, I think so, but that's not a reason to despair. And like, here's my pitch to you in the audience, and you can tell me if you think this smells bad. Like the act of writing tools with software is like pure engineering. It's pure technical. It's like, I think I heard somewhere, I think it was like on some DevOps toolkit podcast, is like this person was criticizing the software craftsmanship movement. And like the crux of the argument is like, he held up his phone, is like, would you rather have a crafted iPhone or an engineered iPhone? I was like, oh, this is like a good way of sort of just pointing out quickly the disparity. And I think it's larger too. I think the act of starting with a blank page or not a blank page and adding stuff to it or creating something is engineering work. But I think the business of software, I think people underestimate how like rawly creative it is, how raw, like it's raw creativity. And I think that is kind of always going to be like the underlying tidal force of why churn and swings exist in our industry, because, and that's, you're seeing that with the AI hype now. People are like, I don't need engineers. Whatever, a person with a great idea for like a dog chat app, like no one ever really wanted to, people just want to think it in their mind and have it manifest into the world as fast as they possibly can. So every time we've had like a bottleneck unlock, people have been like, oh, that's the answer. That's the answer is, well, back in the day, it was just too expensive from a time and probably money perspective to have the developers also test the things. And then it stopped being expensive. And they're like, oh, if we can just have them do everything, we're getting a speed up. So do that, because the goal is create something that people find useful. Or maybe that's me as a naive software developer. If I put my rapacious business person hat on, I say, create something that people will pay me money for, that will give me margin on my business. And so I think that's going to be true software development methodologies. That's going to be true in front end development, and that's going to be true in platforms. Like, if I come to you, you got a business idea, and I say, hey, there's this great thing called Kubernetes, and it's awesome, and there's this giant community, and it's really resilient, and you can start with like one customer and one business person, and there's a time investment and there's an expertise investment, but you can scale your business from one customer to planet scale. And like, it really can happen. It's not hype anymore. You can do it. You're just going to need to spend, you can either go with, you're going to have to figure out, do you go with EKS or some of the Kubernetes services? Do you run it your own using kops? Which of the tools do you use to spin up and manage your nodes? This is like before your app even gets onto it. It's like, or there's this thing called Lambda where you write your code and then it just kind of runs and people can just kind of use it. Like, or there's even this thing called Heroku. Like, what are you going to pick? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, what are you going to pick? Like, I totally get it. I think absolutely we are where I think we are in platform world, to kind of just return to your question, is you're right. DevOps, like, what's the analogy? Like, DevOps is like everyone does everything, and that kind of worked for a while. But like, everything is gotten too large for one person team to fit in your head because specialization keeps happening. And so now we're kind of like, we got this platform team, and their job is to create golden paths so the developers can do sort of their 80%, 70%, 90% of business easily. And then the platform team's like, wait, so we have to do basically all of the engineering, and then these people come in at the end and like throw an app on it? Like, even though if there are developers who are thrilled by that challenge, like, they just can't, right? So like, platform engineering itself tends to be like, okay, well, we're going to push more of the work back onto the developers. And I think the answers are, so like, everything old is new again. It's like, if you're on a platform team, I think you just have to like have a, maybe not an academic understanding, but like an intuitive understanding of like, what is an interface? Like, if you're coming from out, just like, what is like literally an interface in Java or TypeScript or whatever language that supports interfaces, or a struct in Go or whatever, like what is the point of it? Or if you're coming from UX, like, what is the point of a well-designed interface? Because like, this is how we actually achieve the vision of, I take a thing that's complex, I distill it to its essential concepts, and I hand it to you, and it is now less complex but still resilient. And I think having a team of like platform practitioners kind of requires everyone to like have a deep, I was going to say commitment, but it's not religion, just a deep understanding.
Are you sure?
Yeah, a deep understanding of like what's valuable about it and how to do it. Because no one's going to sit down and say, I think that's the tricky thing with platforms, is like, it's really easy to be like, the platform team goes and finds a tool and they say, cool, we found a tool. And then they just hand it to the developers. And like, that's not like, no one's sitting there being like, make this a product. Like, the pressures are less present. You can't like you can't find Spring Boot and then hand it to a restaurateur and be like, cool, like, there you go. Like, it's just not going to work. It's like, people would laugh at you, but you can like, well, you're a developer, like, platform person's a developer, Streamline developer's developer, like, you guys should be able to talk. So like, thinking about your interfaces, thinking about just sort of that good work of taking complexity, putting it in a box and handing something off that is less complex, still resilient, does minimal trade-offs, I think is sort of where like the platform current movement in operations and platform engineering is, where it's going to really be make or break. In platform engineering world, the sort of like, things like, you must treat your platform like a product, which to me is like, I agree with that. And then I'm like, how many software engineers have shipped their own product, have done any amount of time in like product design, or whatever the sum total of engineers at your org or in the world? My intuition is that the subset of people who actually understand what like treat your platform as a product like really means on like a specific imagery level is like much smaller than folks think it is. And so
why do you think that is?
Well, maybe that's one of the hot takes with LLM driven development tools. I think up until, I would say even now in 2026, the same, to return an analogy of like, there was a point in time in software development where like, it was good if you knew how to test your stuff, but it was not required. Like, everyone's got a job, everyone's got a family, everyone's got like obligations. And like, there's the set of all things you should be doing or could be doing. And then there's the much smaller set of things you are doing in your professional life. And I just don't think most developers, if you're especially even, I mean, maybe in your consultancy, it's a little different, but I would even hazard a guess, like, you don't have to learn these skills to pull in a decent wage, meet a partner, go on trips, get a home. And so like, the people who are going to learn these skills are going to be the people who either forced to, which I think the traditional routes have been, get out of school or drop out of college and start a company, and then you're forced to figure out how to make a product work, or you get interested in your career and you take like a little stint as a product development person somewhere, and then maybe you come back to software development. Like, you just don't have to know it the way you have to know how to like learn a programming language. Like, in 2026, if you're a software developer, you either like touch Bash or some programming language. Like, I'm very confident with that assessment. Like, I barely know. I mean, I'm learning stuff about product development all the time. And part of the reason is because I have a job that has forced me to think about it more, because I'm on a platform team. And if I want people to use my stuff, and I want my business leaders to be like, it's valuable to keep this person employed, and my developers to also say it's valuable to keep this person employed. Like I have to think about how products work, but I didn't really. I was curious before. It's sort of what led me on my career journey to where I am, but I don't. Not everyone takes that same path. So, and I really believe on the platform team, or if people do what is like an anti-pattern, but teams do it all the time. They take an operations team and they say, hey, DevOps is a thing. So instead of the ops team, we're calling it the DevOps team, which is like contrary to the idea. And now we just took that team and renamed it the platform team. Like they were probably, and this is not like, sysadmin is tough. Like I'm not trying to shame, sysadmin is tough. It is challenges that software developers don't have. Like there's a lot of things that I think are harder.
You just shoot the thing in the head and spin up another one nowadays. It's not hard.
Well, sometimes, like if you've modernized your infrastructure, like
I'm kidding.
Yeah, I'm sure you've. So this is a long tangent to say, like, yeah, we're. I think it's an accurate read to be like the pendulum's swinging, and if there's people like it's going to swing back to everyone does everything. Like, I guess I would hope that if it does that, it's because we got good enough at aspects of platform engineering that it was no longer looked at as a differentiator or as difficult. It's like, yeah, like why do we need a separate team for like we can get enough done with infrastructure that like let's make the developers do it. Like that would be in my eyes like a success. Like you're starting to go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think there's a bit of a trade-off of like how much where platform ends and where application begins, that whole that boundary. I would say if an organization is forward leaning, they need to push that boundary, keep the platform tighter because you want the application teams to be doing innovation, experimenting and looking at new technologies and things. The broader the event horizon is for the platform, it kind of limits how much those application teams can experiment with things. So I think if you're a more innovative organization, you want to keep that platform tighter. Those golden paths are a little shorter than longer. And then let those application teams do that experimentation and then learn from it, right? That's kind of your proving ground for things of new things and your awareness of new technologies. And then you kind of incorporate those into the platform as you go. And then as you mature, you kind of, expand that out, I guess. I don't know. That's kind of how I think of it.
Yeah, I think it's a good way to think about it. I mean, I think it's a very, like, you can tell you've actually done this job for a little bit. Like today's golden paths become tomorrow's golden handcuffs. Like if you don't have a team, like all software rots, and that's just as true of infrastructure and everything else. Like 10 years ago, if someone's like, hey, get on Jenkins, you'd be like, whoa, this is a cutting edge team. That's awesome. Like in 2026, if someone's like, yeah, and we got Jenkins, people are like, I mean, Jenkins is good. It's venerable. It's been around for a bit, but like it tells you something about Jenkins is great. Anyone listening, like Jenkins, not trying to throw shade at your stack. It's just, it's more of an illustrative point of like things move fast. Form and infrastructure stuff is absolutely no exception. And hopefully we will see the next thing sooner rather than later. Because, something AI. In 2026, being a podcast guest is great because you can just be like, yeah, AI is going to change everything and no one can really call you on it.
Yeah, it is awesome.
Yeah.
And everything's changing every day. You can be like, oh yeah, well that's how it was the day I recorded the episode, so it's fine.
But I think just to wrap it up, I think platforms are still a great thing. And I think if you get one or two software developers on there, like you can make it a really worthwhile investment for your company, and your developers aren't going to hate you. They will see net value, even though they're going to wish you were on. They'll always have notes. As a technology leader, if you're listening to this, like a fringe benefit of a platform team is the developers can go complain to that team instead of complaining to you. So they can sort of be like your lightning rod. And you can just go to them and be like, okay, well, what are the devs upset about today? You can just have a calm conversation with your harried platform team instead of having them come directly to you.
So one thing that, and I even did it here, that we kind of skipped over when you talk about kind of the evolution of, DevOps and platform and all that stuff. One thing that kind of gets dropped out, and I don't know why that is, and maybe it's me, SRE. Where did that go? I mean, that was big for a long, not for a long time. For a little bit, it was like huge. Like everybody's like, oh, I need to be an SRE, What happened to SRE? Is it still around? Are people still doing that? Is it just moved into different people are doing it? What's the deal there?
I think it's still around. I think these people, I think it's sort of like I don't want to say a casualty. It's like a second order effect of like the move from DevOps, like everyone does everything, to platform, like we're back to sort of specialization. My non-scientific, I'm not an HR person, I'm not running ThoughtWorks, I'm not doing broad surveys. My intuitive sense is like the SRE people, if they were attached to a product that was quote unquote big enough, either technically complex or big enough from a revenue perspective, like kind of stayed there to kind of keep that product stable so everyone can keep the lights on and keep the mortgage paid and do the experimentation. And hopefully those people are still satisfied. But it's minus like people with the SRE kind of skill set, I feel like they're like, oh, I could sit on, I don't know, company monolith product that is responsible of 60% of revenue. and hopefully have good work-life balance and hopefully get recognition I want. I was like, or I could move on to this platform initiative and I could become like a Grafana expert. And now I could sort of become an expert at like configuring Grafana and observability standards and metrics. And I could sort of sell that expertise without being like the only one who knows what to do when the pager goes off. It's my intuitive, vibey kind of answer. Like, I think the skill sets are still valuable, but I haven't seen as many openings for SRE roles either in the past couple of years.
If it's because that whole thing came up in the era of like, I don't know, I refer to it as kind of the what would Netflix do era.
Mhm.
Everybody was kind of like, oh, we have to be doing everything Netflix and Google, the FANG companies are doing, or whatever it's
Yeah,
called
totally.
nowadays. But maybe SRE was just like, yeah, Netflix needs to do that. Google needs to do that. But like, do we really need to be doing all of those things that those companies are doing at our scale? We have 30,000 transactions a day. Do we really need, that? Maybe not. Maybe that's part of it. I don't know. That's an interesting just
agree. I mean, I think that's largely a bang on observation is like, and I think it's healthy for companies to be like, do I have real serious ambitions, not just from an engineering perspective, but from like a revenue perspective of achieving these scales where like these more and more specialized roles like provide return on investment. Like, I think the fun thing about the other part of the business of software is like, yeah, it's like, what can I get done? It's like, you want the most coverage for the least cost, just like everyone else, right? So yeah, I think companies are sort of, yeah. So what would Google do? And Google, they published that great book and it is a good read. I don't think it was. It is a good read. You learn a lot.
Sure.
But yeah, I think the market has sort of told us what quote unquote most companies have made, unless you're like, yeah, one of these huge software as a service companies.
Yeah, maybe it's kind of along the same lines of like security, right? I mean, security is you only need what you need, right? What's good enough security for your situation? If you're not dealing with credit card numbers and those sort of things, you don't need the optimum security, right? You can settle for less when it comes to security. And the same thing goes with like the practices of like SRE. If you're not you're not only doing 30,000 transactions a day, do I need to hire a dedicated SRE?
Yeah,
no, probably not.
No.
Anyway,
I think the skills, if you're listening and you're an SRE, like I think your skills are still just as valuable. Like I think to me, this is like an old wine and new bottles thing. It's like the skills are valuable. Whenever I meet like a really solid site reliability engineer, I'm like, I just pick their brain. I'm like, oh, here's my chance to learn some stuff. Like here's a person who's been through like war. Like I want to get their war stories. But probably like the roles you apply for or the way you're asked to serve inside a company today has probably changed enough that the SRE title, I would imagine, is, I don't know, comment below if you feel like it's changing that. Sorry. You're the host, James. Sorry. I've never known that was fun.
Smash that like button. You know
That's
what I mean?
right. Cool. I get to cosplay as a podcaster for a day. This is great for me.
You have to get your podcast host voice going,
Sorry. Is it
join us on the /
When you think about reliability in sites, do you engineer your site reliability or do you craft your site reliability?
Is it really reliability? All right. So this has been great. We are moving on to our next segment of the show, which is our
awesome
Ship It or Skip It.
Ship or skip. Everybody, we got to tell us if you ship or skip.
So the idea here is kind of like hot or not sort of thing, right? So we'll come up with a topic, we'll talk about it, and I'm a ship that. That's awesome. I love that idea. Or skip it, right? That's not a good idea. So what about? There seems to be some. I don't know. There's. I don't know if it's always been that way, but I thought we settled in for a while about like developers writing tests. Like we kind of settled into like that's a good thing. There seems to be a little bit of like grumblings going on that like, we don't need to write tests. Where are you on that spectrum of like? Do developers need to write tests or is it like, whatever?
Yes.
Yes, they do. You're a ship it on developers need to write tests.
I mean, yeah, we can talk about it, but like 100%. Like, should we talk more about it?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Write your tests, especially now that we're letting AI agents of all shapes and sizes loose on code bases. Like you need to tell me how your program's supposed to behave because like code change velocity has markedly upticked because it's gotten so much cheaper to like produce characters and the models have gotten good enough that those statistically generated strings of characters that form symbols in a programming language now work most of the time. Like that's even more dangerous. Like if they only work 50% of the time, like don't write tests. But now the model's getting good enough that they work most of the time. Like you need to have unit integration tests that tell me the specification of your program. They need to be, and like it's more important than ever that they're automated because you need the LLM to run the test to know if it's in things according to your specification or if that specification needs to change. Like I think developers writing tests is the most important it's ever been in our industry for that reason alone. Like, you don't want to increase the bug shipping velocity you want the bug velocity to stay flat or down as code change velocity increases. And like, there's no way to do that without tests. Like you can, if you're just a diehard of like, don't do it. What you're going to do is invent a worse test framework than what we already have, which is automated testing. Like you're going to reinvent a worst wheel, which you're welcome to do. You can hold the pager like all the time. Like don't hand me the pager if you're on the team. Like I don't, you know what I mean? And those are
for
cheap to
those
write.
of you in the audience that don't know what a pager is, that was a long time ago. Yeah,
the bat phone. You can be on call to maintain the code that was generated without tests because it's so easy. And you know what? Like maybe I'm weird. I like writing the tests. Like I've learned so much about engineering from being forced to think about all the ways my code can fail and all the ways it should succeed. Like my design skills have gotten better. My edge case like identification skills got better. Like I can probably pretty linearly chart a line in my career progression and like salary. The more I've invested in like quote unquote getting good at writing tests, like it's paid off in my career. And I think if you're not like a career driven person, like I think the stuff I've written has been genuinely better. Like I wouldn't have, it's hard to talk about developer experience. Like a great way of thinking about developer experience is write a test because you're forced to think about just you, the developer experience for you. Like, do you like that method has like an area for? Yeah. Like maybe like, you know what I mean? Or just, you know, and like for the LLM people in the audience, like you'll be able to have more productive design conversations with your LLM. They will, like your time won't be wasted. You will actually in it because you're spending the planet's resources. You're spending either your money or the company's money on getting these answers. So you might as well like be efficient with your time, money, water, and electricity. Like that's the hardest ship it I can ever think of in my life. There's like, I will take the position even stronger that there's no downside to writing tests. And I know like the start people like, well, it reduces our velocity. It's like, well, not anymore in the LLM era. Like describe the tests you want. The LLM will bang them out in 10 to 60 seconds, like a test suite of like 100 test cases and then like go. Like it really shouldn't anymore.
Yeah, I think, some of these things like these craft type questions for me has been sometimes I'm struggling with over the last year, you know, like with, you know, generative AI, it's like, does all the stuff, like, does it even matter anymore? If robots are writing the code, why do I care if it's readable? Why do I care if it's good code anymore? Like, does it matter anymore? I don't want to be too dogmatic about, you know, old beliefs. I'm trying to like not be so get off my lawn about, you know what I mean? Like it's tough, you know, because I've been doing this for a long time and you get things beat in your head and it's hard to keep an open mind. But like, as you said, like when you write a test, you're the first consumer of the code you wrote. You're the first person who uses it. And now you have to take that perspective and no, this sucks. I don't want to pass 10 parameters. I don't even know what the third parameter is. What is that?
Yeah,
now? I don't remember. Like now you're having to kind of eat your own dog food. But if you say, hey, Claude, go write the tests for this thing I just wrote, it doesn't care if it sucks to write it's just going to generate it. It's going to look at the APIs. Okay, there's first name, last name, social security, and date of birth. Whatever. And it's going to generate it and it doesn't care. It's not going to give you feedback that says, wow, that really sucked. It's just going to do it. So I don't know. I think we should be writing tests. I agree. I'm trying to keep an open mind of like, you know, how do we think differently in the generative AI era? I don't know.
Yeah, I think like the methodologies, like I think like the balances of things have shifted. Like, but I think the broad concepts are still like ironclad. Like, and my reasoning is that like at the end of the day, it is still a human reviewing things, and maybe they're doing it with the assistance of an LLM. And like, good for Andre Carpazzi. Like, he's clearly got smarter than me, more accomplished than me in my career in every sense, and likely smarter. But like, we might get to a point where like the code, like you don't like. I don't, when I run GCC compile, I also don't look at that output, but like, we're not there yet. Like, we aren't there yet. Like, when there's a bug in production or whatever, like, it's still, like, you still need to have some understanding or tool for proximal understanding that works deterministically and quickly for, like, what is this supposed to be doing? You know what I mean? Like, memory leaks didn't stop being a thing just because LLMs came on the scene. You know what I mean? So I think for me, it has really been like a faster horses moment, not like a automobile moment when it comes to testing. It's like, okay, now you can just do the thing you were doing before, but faster.
Okay.
Because the value, to me, the value proposition hasn't changed at all. And it's when the value proposition changes, which is like, that's when you get like, you're reading the AI 2027 paper of like, we're in a post-human driven software development world. Like, that makes sense to me. But then I don't need to be on this podcast and we don't need to be talking. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
So as long as a person with a title roughly approximating developing software exists, like, please write those tests. They are always going to be cheaper than debugging a production issue sweatily with 10 LLMs. Always.
Readily. I like that.
Yeah.
That's a nice adverb. All right. So next, ship it or skip it then. I noticed you mentioned you guys are doing a lot of CNCF stuff. There's a lot of kind of grumblings about the CNCF. Do you think, on the whole, or the net gain from having the CNCF around is beneficial for kind of the Kubernetes community, or is it too much? That's the thing, right? People are like, oh my gosh, it's like you get this buyer's remorse. There's a gazillion things on the diagram when you look at the CNCF, and there's just so much stuff out there. Is this a good thing for the Kubernetes community, or is it bad?
Is it ship it or skip it on the CNCF existing,
kind of
or ship it
the
or skip
state
it
of
on
where
like
it
the
is.
CNCF?
Yeah, like kind of where it is right now. Like, do you feel like that it's gone a little haywire, or do you think that's a good thing? Like that we have 5 different ways of doing every single thing.
Well,
And that's overstating.
this is a great question.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
I have an answer. I'm going to think for a second about how I want to say it. So I think if we were to teleport like most of the CNCF sort of steering committees here, they'd be like, we are accomplishing our objective, which is to create a thriving ecosystem of open source products that have communities, like a set of standards and standard funding and a standard graduation process. Like we are succeeding. Like there's a marketplace of options, and a marketplace of options is good, but the options all have roughly similar characteristics: a funding model, maturity model, governance model. We can share resources about security auditing or whatever. I think the CNCF would say it's as a human or organization of humans, it's succeeding, and you can tell based on the ecosystem. As a person navigating the CNCF ecosystem, I don't mind it, but like it's definitely like I definitely can tell that I'm a bit of a masochist. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't expect everyone to be like you kind of need to be a CNCF masochist to go, cool, I'm at X company, we have X problem. Like maybe there's a CNCF project for it. Like flash forward 2 weeks after, like if you're fast enough, like evaluating 3 different things, you're still kind of like, what is the difference between Kyverno really and OPA really and JS validate really? And by the way, if you're not in the Kubernetes, if you're not a crazy Kubernetes person, these are all ways of like validating that your manifests are well formed and that fit company policies before stuff enters the cluster. And I'm probably missing a few tools, right?
Sort of like policy as code kind of a thing, right?
Yeah, policy. That's exactly right. Policy as code stuff. It's like, okay, there's this thing called Argo CD. It's a CNCF graduated project. It helps me do continuous delivery. There's this thing called Flux CD. It's a CNCF project. It's graduated. It helps me do continuous delivery. Now what? My boss, James, comes like, hey, for real though, we got to ship some stuff. And like, we're trusting you to make a call. I think the CNCF needs to do some platform engineering on the CNCF. And I can see why there would be tension there, because if they start picking favorites, I mean, there's been some nominal efforts. The CNOE was this, I forget the acronym. It's like trying to, like, if the CNCF total ecosystem is sort of looked at as the Lego blocks, Canui is trying to build like standard stacks that should work for most people. And I think this is where the hyperscalers, the GCPs, the AWSs, the Azures, like even the Herokus, which I think that's just AWS now. It's been for a while. Like they do a good job of like, you have a business problem, we have a solution that maps 1-to-1 with that problem. I think it's still too darn high. The rent's too darn high. There's too much cognitive load to navigate the CNCF ecosystem with enough confidence and simplicity. Like, though I would imagine if Liberty has a platform practice, it's probably pretty good for your sales funnel of like, this is too much work. We need sort of experts who are sort of just know this in and out and need to come tell us. So I'm a very tentative, I'm like a passing grade ship it on the CNCF and its ecosystem. What an amazing, vibrant community. Like smash that. Like this should be, I think, interpreted as a nit of like, now that you have these things that were hard to build and didn't exist, like a vibrant community, like a brand name, like a great conference, like tools that are genuinely like, maybe not feats, but like genuinely like well-engineered products. I mean, like Crossplane is so cool. Like Kubernetes itself, so cool. Like now for like the people who aren't on Mount Olympus, like we need a little help of like, okay, like how can I map my problem? Like I've got a 2-page doc of like the things I want solved. Like how can I translate that doc into the CNCF landscape? Maybe it's just an LLM at this point. Like maybe it's just like maybe the CNCF has some guidance docs and they have an LLM agent trained under RAG where it will take like question that'll be like, yeah, for what you said, you should be using OPA instead of Kyverno for these reasons. It's never that simple, because if people knew all their requirements up front, like a lot of software engineering would be simpler, and no one does. No one knows their requirements up front, or even if they do, like the requirements change as like the opportunities and challenges arise.
Yeah.
So
And we, like our platform team, we went through an exercise where we sat down and we kind of just went through the whole ecosystem. And we were like, let's pick without knowing all of the requirements of everything, what is the tool we reach for first? Like shortening that list and saying, this is our short list of the technologies. If you're in Azure, you want to go this route because this, right? And those sort of things. So we kind of have a playbook, so to speak, of, when we land at a client and we're trying to solve that problem, we kind of already narrowed that list down already. So we don't go through that whole, like, you're going to the cereal aisle in the grocery store and you're like, oh boy, there's 700 different types of Cheerios now. Like we don't do that anymore with our clients. We've already kind of vetted these things and whittled them down. So I think that's a good thing. On the CNCF, I think back to my Apache days, and I struggle with this being at Apache, a lowly programmer, contributing on one of the projects. We had at Apache Commons, I think we had a couple of different projects that were kind of doing the same thing. And I was like, why do we have that? We shouldn't have that. We should have one way of doing things. And they were like, that's not our job. Like you said, picking favorites, that's not our job. Our job is to bring, technology for the better, the greater good of humanity. And if that means there's 3 different flavors of how to do that, and some of these scratch itches that others don't, but they basically solve the same problem, okay, that's fine. That it's okay. I think that's a good thing, that competition and all of that. It kind of drives innovation. But at a certain point, somebody does have to sit down, as you're saying, and thumb through everything and say, this is kind of the stack du jour for us. This is our kind of our stack. And for better or for worse, maybe because that stack inside and out, and you've wired everything together rock solid and you've used it 100 different times. Okay, in this one situation, it might have been better to pick technology X versus technology Y because it's a tighter fit. Who cares, right? Like, okay, we're using Y because we've wired it together with everything else before 100 different times, and we know this is performant, it's solid, it stays up forever, that sort of stuff. I think that's the place outside of the CNCF is for folks to kind of come up with those kind of golden stacks, so to speak.
And I'll shout out, listen, I was just at QCon this year, and this is a big focus of mine of like navigating the big pile of stuff. Like shout out to Kubernetes. I think there's a platform special interest group inside of Kubernetes to tackle this problem directly. People who just kind of want to use Kubernetes like more like a black box. And I think within the CNCF, I know there's a couple of like platform engineers because they're technically different. Like Kubernetes and CNCF they are separate entities related to one another. So there's also like several platform engineering initiatives, some like higher level stack initiatives inside the scene. Like I think they are improving. It ain't there yet. But I think the fact that there are enough people that there's momentum behind not just us sort of being like, oh, this is hard, but like people inside these organizations trying to do that work, I think is a really, really, really positive and healthy sign.
All right. Last one for Ship It or Skip It. And I don't know, I struggle with this one myself. So there's a lot of folks that, kind of once you learn Kubernetes, right? And you're like, okay, wow, this is cool. And you got to find a bunch of tools to do what you need and you wire everything together. You're like, why would I ever do anything else? Why would I ever do anything different? This is crazy. I don't want to handle all this stuff ever again myself. This just works. If something goes wrong, things spin back up. It's healthy. It's kind of set it and forget it. Is that, is it for everything? Right? Kubernetes everywhere. There's some pushback that like, oh my gosh, all you need is this, the kind of the minimalist view of things. Where are you at on the kind of that mindset?
Yeah. And this is like a spicier segment. So I'm going to add a little spice to it. I would say you don't need to use Kubernetes if you don't care about building a company, if you don't care about your product enough to like build a company out of it, that your goal isn't acquisition. Like if you're trying to do something that's like, if you're just trying to make a really short-term play, don't use Kubernetes. But if you're a company or a person or practitioner that's serious about building something that sticks around for an appreciable length of time, which I feel like in technology is like 2 years. Like in every other industry, that would be like a blink of an eye. 2 years is like forever in technology. Like, yeah, like I don't think you're serious enough if you're not seriously considering Kubernetes and its ecosystem. In my anecdotal experience, like all the companies and organizations that haven't used Kubernetes, their goal was to get acquired by a company, like to kind of prove out an idea, get a product market fit, get acquired. And that company that acquired them almost assuredly was using Kubernetes somewhere or in totality in their organization. Like I get that there's bank software that's running on mainframes. I think I feel like, Kubernetes itself just celebrated its 10-year anniversary. I don't know if the CNCF came after or before, but like you get to a point quickly where like you're either gonna have to solve the problems it solves, like both from not just the individual components of the Kubernetes runtime, but like just the developer experience, like declarative versus stateful, all that other stuff. Like, so you can do that, and hopefully you or the cadre of people you're with are intelligent enough and had enough experiences to like solve them a different way, or you can just use the thing that exists. Yeah, like at home for my home lab, like most of my stuff runs on Docker Compose stacks because like the baby's napping, my son's napping. I have 30 minutes, and it's really easy to copy and paste one YAML file and run Docker Compose up and just kind of look at how things are working and then proxy that to the internet if I need it. Than it is to like go through the rigmarole of getting resources and do I use a Helm chart or do I use Customize? Like that's just a developer experience, right? Do I just like it's running on a VM and like that's good enough. But I think Kubernetes everywhere isn't the right thing, but Kubernetes, if you're at all serious about making something that's sticky, is how I would rephrase that.
Okay. Yeah, I think where people get the pushback is it's always like, oh, I need to spin up 2 instances of my thing for an API. Let me start a whole new cluster and spin up all of those things and all the key management and all of those sort of things for every little project. That's overkill. If you really just have something simple and you have nothing else, maybe you can just use an app runner or something like that, right? Whatever the container scheduler thing of du jour is for you, probably fine. But once you do get to the point, as you were saying, where we are running something serious and you have a cluster available, and probably for bootstrapping new things, there's probably like an incubator cluster, maybe a good idea where you put things in together where they live together, but as they start to scale, maybe they deserve their own cluster over time. Okay, that's cool. But I'm with you. I think that the platform itself and what it puts together and all the things that it solves, the itches that it scratches, you're going to have to do it to get serious with whatever you're building. Eventually, you're going to have to do it. Why not use the thing that everybody's using and it's proven? So
so you can use Kind locally or any other zillion local fast Kubernetes things. The Kubernetes and Docker is great. I think the Kubernetes main team uses it. And to help your audience calibrate, I also was and still am just use JavaScript. It's because like so many, I feel like trillions of dollars in like dollar investment and manpower have been pumped into this language to make it work well enough. Like the AWS CDK is written in TypeScript. And I think AWS wrote this whole crazy language transpiler system to let them like write the core logic in TypeScript and then create SDKs in Zillion languages. Like there's so much energy and effort is being poured into Kubernetes to make it work. Like why not? You know what I mean? Like build your app in TypeScript, not because it's the big, there's all the investment and now all the LLM training has gone to like this language. It's like, if you get to such a point where, unless you're doing like scientific computing or a priori, both in the infrastructure or software language, that you have this like constraint, like high frequency trading and like any overhead, like write everything in C and run it on like an actual physical computer that has nothing else that is as close to the New York Stock Exchange as possible. Like unless you kind of know you have those constraints. I mean, even from there's secure compute enclaves of Kubernetes nodes, like it's like you get a lot for free for the 100% for the initially more complex than you prefer cost upfront, but you get a ton for free once you're there.
I think it's akin to me of looking back, like, and I don't know if, it depends on the folks in the audience if they've done this, but if you're any true Scotsman, right? Like,
yes.
Writing your own ORM. Like you look at something like Hibernate and you're like, wow, all it's doing is like pulling values out of columns and putting it into object fields. I can do that pretty easily. And you can. Yeah. You can for the very rudimentary thing. Absolutely. But as you start to build, now you're having, millions of lines of code in this homegrown ORM when you could have just used Hibernate or whatever, ORM is out there that you'd like to use. It's just crazy. Logging frameworks, the same thing. We've had people who are like, oh, logging, I don't need to do that. But why? Why invest in that? That's just it.
I've seen, so like just to steel man the opposing viewpoint for a second, I think when people say like these things are too heavyweight, I would imagine they've been at a point in their career where they're either inheriting with or working with someone who's trying to totally offload the technical due diligence responsibility or like the actual understanding of concepts onto like a tool. Mm-hmm. So instead of being like, we're going to think hard about like what we need this app to do, both in like its logic and its error case handling, but its performance requirements, like we're just going to put it on Kubernetes, or we're just going to we're not going to think hard about databases. We're just going to use an ORM and use Mongo, right? Like I think that sort of strain of passing the buck in technology will always be present, has always been present, will always be present. And I think people have probably gotten burned by either inheriting work from other developers who are like, oh, we're just going to use Kubernetes, or working with developers who don't want to or don't feel backed up by their management chain. They feel like they just have to pick something off the shelf and sort of turn the brain off. You know what I mean? But that to me, that's like a all the way back to the people, not technology. That's like a people problem.
Oh, yeah.
More than it is a technology problem. Yeah.
Okay. Up next is the segment we like to call the lightning round.
It's time for the lightning round. Rapid fire, don't slow down. Answer quick and make it count. In this game, there's no way out. It's time for the lightning round.
All right. The lightning round now begins. We are transitioning now to the lightning round. And I think, Mike, you've listened to the show before, so you're familiar. The lightning round like this is the meat of the show. This is what everyone tunes in for. This is, I mean, most people just skip through the conversation. It's all the stuff we just talked about. Yeah, they're like, nope, give me the lightning round. This is what we want. This is where the answers matter at this point. They didn't before, they do now. They absolutely matter. They will be graded. They will be scored.
And they have to come quickly. Yeah, right.
Yeah, the answers have to come quickly. These have to be your, rapid fire answers, so that we know that you're not just trying to say what we think we want to hear, right?
Cool.
So we want you to just say it, and we will score this. We have a whole algorithm for grading everything, and we'll get back to you on your score to let you know how you did. I have to do this for every guest because I don't know that they understand kind of the weight of this segment for the show. I have to set this up every single time.
This is the career liability generator segment of the show.
Right.
Where,
yeah.
like,
So
because
career
it's going to be on
limiting.
the internet. Tremendous. Yeah, let's go.
It could
Why
be
not?
the internet's forever.
Yep.
This, just letting you know.
Tremendous.
So you are mentally prepared, though.
Ready or not, here we come.
To enter the lightning round. Okay.
Let's do it.
Without further ado, let's get into the real meat of the show. What's your favorite ice cream flavor?
Vanilla. My son has convinced me. I used to like chocolate, and I don't get to eat chocolate anymore because my children don't want to eat it. So vanilla. I've been Stockholm Syndrome.
There are others besides chocolate and vanilla, right? Did you realize there were other choices?
No.
You weren't aware?
I haven't gotten to pick anything off the menu besides that for quite some time. So
That's fair. That's fair. Name one of the 7 dwarfs.
Sleepy.
That's kind of a social engineering thing to try to see what kind of person you are, I think. I don't know. I have no idea what it means.
Sleepy.
But the scoring algorithm, it'll take care of that.
I'm tired.
Yeah, it's like a neural network or something. What's your favorite car?
The one that requires the least amount of maintenance. I don't know. So probably a Toyota something. I have a Toyota Prius.
Okay.
That thing, I don't have to think about it. Yep.
Have you ever tasted soap?
Yes.
What is the type of triangle with 2 equal sides called?
Isosceles.
Well done. I mean,
I sweated there for a second.
Yeah, I assume that's the right answer. Would you eat a day-old taquito from 7-Eleven? Or if you don't have 7-Eleven where you live, Wawa, whatever it is, whatever.
Probably. If I'm on the road, it's usually for a road trip, and you got to make the kiddos happy and get them in and out, and the parents kind of just got to like down the hatch and maybe down the hatch with some Pepsid.
Yeah.
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah. Okay. Polka dots or stripes?
Stripes, I think they're slimming.
And this one's a good one for you. I don't bust this question out for everybody, but I feel like and every time I talk to you, I learn a new word. I feel like you've got a great vocabulary. So define the word zeitgeist.
Zeitgeist is a way of describing sort of like, it's a fancy way. It's a $10 way of saying vibe. Like what kids say is the vibe now is what the zeitgeist was in the 1910s. It's a way of describing like the sort of collective cultural thoughts around a specific topic.
Do you think anyone considers you a hipster?
I don't think I have enough style or panache to be considered anything remotely approximating the word hip. So no.
No, not. Okay.
No.
Do you own a bicycle?
Yeah, several. What tipped you off?
Well, I mean, that would make you more hipsterish.
Okay, so then maybe yes. I didn't realize having a bike made you. Yeah, sure. I
feel
like bikes a lot.
I feel like that's a hipster thing. I don't know. I don't know what the definition of a hipster is. I feel like that's.
Yeah,
I think that's a thing. I don't know.
My dad had a motorcycle, and I have a bicycle. That's sort of like the downfall of humanity type trajectory. He had a cool motorcycle, and I'm like, cool. I got a sick. I have drop bars. I feel like those are really cool.
De-evolution.
Yeah.
We have a guy that works for us. If you talk about bicycles, this dude rode his bicycle across the country.
I want to do that. I mean, that sounds so much fun. Like, that sounds great.
Forrest Gump style kind of thing. Like that. That is so cool. Yeah.
Sounds really fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, that's too far after Thanksgiving. So there's one that we asked people, how do you feel about cranberries?
Love them.
It can be polarizing.
Yeah, who doesn't like a good cranberry thing? I mean, I wouldn't eat it forever. Yeah.
Here's the one that we've been on for a little bit. Do you like the smell of gasoline?
Weirdly, yes. Ever since I was a kid, I think there's some sort of like, I liked school though. So I liked getting on the bus and you would kind of smell the fumes, and like gasoline roughly approximates that smell. I'm sure my future doctor is going to listen to this episode and be like, oh, there we go. That's why.
That explains it.
The diagnosis is explained.
So for anyone who's keeping score, we have not had anyone say no to that question yet. And everyone always explains it's like an associative thing. It's like the smell of gasoline reminds me of when I used to go on vacation with my parents, or it's always one of those. So it's interesting. It's like a very, not pungent, but it's like it's a very memorable smell. And I guess that we have a very good way of associating things. So maybe that's what it is. Because I like the smell of gasoline too. Do you like the word dapper?
Yeah. I haven't met anyone who I'd use to describe. I mean, I feel like that's like a 1890s London term, but I love it.
Okay. Like what are those guys that had the razor blades in the back of their caps and they smack you with what was that?
Yeah,
TV show? Peaky Blinders guys. Yeah, that's like, I feel like those guys were dapper. All right. And finally, fill in the blank, please. Taylor Swift is blank.
A recording artist that I understand is quite popular.
Well done. She's got more money than most people, so don't take it,
Yeah, she's doing great.
Don't feel bad.
She's doing fine.
She's doing a good
She must
job.
be doing something right. Yeah.
She's got a few bucks. All right, well, that wraps up the lightning round. Again, don't know what the score is. I feel like, I feel like you did pretty well, honestly.
I hope
do.
so,
Yeah. I feel like you did pretty well. Anything you've got coming up that you want to let us know about, or does your company have anything coming up, or, product releases, or are you writing a book? Are you going to be in a play?
No, I mean, listen, I have nothing if anyone wants to check it out it's probably like will now be the second post on my LinkedIn after this podcast goes up. Myself and a wonderful colleague of mine, Eli, gave what I think is a great talk. We got great feedback at BackstageCon talking about developer portals and how they work and what they can be useful for and how to leverage them at your organization. Would love for you to check it out and give feedback on the video or feedback to me in the comment. Really just trying to get out there more and talk with my broader software development community. It gives me a lot of energy and gives me a lot of excitement. It's great to come to work and do great work. And it's great to talk to people who are also doing great work. So say hi on LinkedIn. That's kind of the only thing.
I was going to ask.
It's my only social media at this point. And when I have some blog posts, I'll reach out to James and maybe they'll have me back on again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I need to learn some new words. You've got a great vocabulary, man.
Thank you.
I knew you were going to nail the zeitgeist thing. Not that I know what the right answers are, but, yeah.
My mother was an elementary school teacher for 35 years. I'm sure she had something to do with it.
Okay. That explains a lot, for sure. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming. This was great. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, James. It's a great podcast. It's enjoyable to talk to you as always. I feel like next time maybe you should let me interview you. I'd love your answers as well. Had a great time. Thank you for having me on.
All right. Well, if you'd like to get in touch with us, drop us a line at /@Calibrity.com. See you next time.
Take care, all.
The / podcast is created by Calibrity. The / team is director and producer Ryan Wilson, editing by Steve Baradelli, marketing support by Taylor Blessing, and I'm your host, James Carman. Thanks for listening.